The goal of nearly every orchestral MIDI mockup is to sound as realistic as possible in the dynamics, in the articulations, in the intervals, in the phrasing, and more. But with even as far as they've come, virtual instruments still don't sound as real musicians in a number of ways. So, there are a few techniques that composers, producers will use to make MIDI mockups sound realistic, and these tricks are not realistic for a real orchestra. I hope that made sense. And one of those techniques is called layering. So today we're going to take a look at how to layer specifically a brass melody. Let's dive right in. So I've been working on a piece that has been using this technique of layering in this section because there's a big brass melody that comes in. The French horns take over, and it's a bit of a trickety melody. We're going to give it a listen, and you'll hear why in just a moment here. But lots of short notes, needs to be punchy, and it's kind of fast, quick attack. So let's give it a listen here, and then we'll break it down. All right, so that's the section right there. And at first glance, this sounds just like a nice, big, well-programmed French horn section. But actually, all 5 of these tracks are dedicated to this melody. They're all playing the entire time, simultaneously. So let's dive in. I'm going to break down what's going on with each one of these tracks one at a time so we can figure out what the benefits of layering like this are. Let's look at the first track here, and this is the one that I would have recorded off of. And we'll just take a listen to this solo by itself so you can hear what this sounds like, all right? Here we go. So you can see the different articulations that are being switched between. This one has tenuto, which is a fast attack and a little bit longer of a decay than a staccato would be, but it's not a sustained note. And then it goes between staccato, which has a bit of a softer attack than staccatissimo, but is a lot more punchy than tenuto and definitely has a slower or a faster decay than tenuto does. So that's the first track, and it sounds pretty good by itself, but it's nothing very impressive. So let's take a look at the second track. We'll just solo the second track, and then we'll listen to both of them together to get an idea of what's going on here. And I'll open up Musio here as well. Let's take a listen. So here we hear that this is actually the body of the sound. And the difference is it's a little bit louder and it's switching between staccatissimo and staccato. So key switch wise, the notes that were tenuto in that first track are staccato in this track, and the ones that were staccato are staccatissimo. So it's a lot faster of an attack and a shorter decay. It's giving that punch. And now if we put the two of these together, we can hear what they sound like when they join forces. So there we have a much brighter, punchier sound with a little bit longer of a decay than just the main staccato staccatissimo track by itself, but a much punchier version than the one that was tenuto and staccato. So that's one of the benefits of layering, is the articulation. It can help with giving certain instruments a longer decay, but the same fast attack that you want. So number one reason for layering is to help make the articulation sound realistic, because there wasn't really anything in between tenuto and staccato, but I wanted something that was in there. A little bit longer decay than staccato, but a faster, punchier attack than tenueto, and a more rounded sound than the tenueto articulation provided in the Cinebrass. So you put the two over top of each other, and you get a very nice in between. And then the last strictly French horns track here is just on legato the entire time. And we'll just put that in the background and take a listen. This doesn't add a ton. It's very subtle, but it does add a little bit more punch to the decay of those notes. Instead of them fading out right away, there's a bit more strength at the end of each, which is what I wanted for this passage and is one of those things that made it complicated. I didn't want the notes to disappear right away. I wanted them to linger for a moment, but have nice, quick transitions in between the notes. A couple of things to note right here. I used to think that layering meant, oh, I have one track be staccato and one track be legato, and now I have a nice legato track with a good punchy attack on it. This can work, but it's not as realistic as what I'm doing here. If you notice, each one of these tracks still has key switches in it, except for that subtle legato background one. And the reason for that is because you don't want a legato or a long-tailed note going over your short notes in a fast passage like this. You don't want that to be the primary sound up to the front. It makes it blurry. Now, I do have legato, but it's very far in the background. It's just a filler sound. It's helping round out the sound. It's not helping with the articulations in this case. So I didn't get extra long decay on notes that I wanted to be short and quick. So make sure that you do that. You can layer them, but I wouldn't recommend just leaving one on the articulation the whole time when it comes to the instruments that make up the majority of the sounds. So the last two tracks that I have on here are the second reason for layering. So the first reason for layering was articulation. The second reason for layering is you can round the sound out a little bit more. It's what the legato patch up here, that's part of it. And these last two are actually brass ensemble patches. So they're the whole brass section that's overlapped with each other. So in this particular section, we're getting a little bit of trombone and a little bit of trumpet, as well as more French horn. And these ones, you can note, they're very low in volume because I don't really want to hear them that much. I just want them to support what's going on in the rest of the instrument. So let's take a watch here. I'll have both of them unmuted at the same time. We'll watch this top one and take a listen. Here we go. So this is probably not necessary, but in context, it makes it stand out even more. It really fills out the section of the song because this brass line is the majority of what's happening. There's just string punches in the backgrounds. That's the only thing, string and percussion, that's going on behind it. So with this being the majority, I wanted a fuller sound than I was getting with just the French horns. And that comes from layering these ensemble patches behind it. And if you noticed, this patch was key switching as well. So I did the same thing. The reason I have two of these is because one bounces between tenueto and staccato, and the other one bounces between staccato and staccatissimo. So it's the same thing that happens with the first two French horns tracks. This is just on brass ensemble, and they're a lot quieter in the background. So there you go. I don't want to go too much more in depth in layering. There's so many different ways that it can be used, but this is specifically for layering an epic brass / French horn melody because that's such a common sound in orchestral productions. It's a beautiful sound. So a few things to take away: keep key switching even through your layering. Use it to find a happy medium in between different articulations. Continue to be using it in modesty if you're trying to sound like a real orchestra. If you want it to sound huge and big, there's things we can do with production that you can't do with the real orchestra, and that's not always bad. Sometimes it can sound really cool. But if you want it to sound like a normal orchestra, keep it to a little bit of a minimum. I normally just do 2 to 3 tracks. 5 was more than normal. All right, I hope this helps. I'll see you in the next one.